The conqueror, the lion, the champion is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about myself, Mark Masai. I'm talking about our guest this evening, that is Collins Injera. He has been with us for the last about 1 hour, waiting to go and just tell us about his illustrious 17-year He's here to tell us about his 17 years of colorful, and you will understand why I'm calling this colorful career in international rugby. He hung his boots 4 months ago, and he has his reasons for that. He will tell us how life has transformed over the last 4 months and what this means for him and what else he is looking to get into. In fact, he's just come from Naivasha. He was golfing. And that just tells you, Jamaa, either he's made it, yani hakuna time ya kucheza golf, ama he's just spending some good time, getting into some good, occupying, positive activity. Ladies and gentlemen, the man I'm talking about here is an Olympian. He has been awarded the Order of the Grand Warrior of Kenya. He is, more importantly, a father of 3, a husband of 1, and Hall of Famer. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in Fiji not too long ago, and a few weeks later into the Hall of Fame in Melrose Sevens. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is just to give you perspective of the man that we are sitting with. He has made or tried 279 tries internationally. That's setting a record, being the second highest scorer in the world. He's seated right next to me. Hajanilipa niseme haya yote. There's so much more I can say about his accolades and his achievements on the pitch of rugby. But first things first, Kolo salimia wase.
Jambo, I think after such an introduction, I don't even know what to say.
No.
Jambo, hi guys.
Yes.
Excited to be here. Thanks for the invite.
No, thank you for honoring it. And Kolo, for the first time, allow me to call you Kolo. We're on first name basis, by the way, me and Kolo. So, for the first time in 23 years, we will not be in the Kenya Rugby Sevens. We've been relegated. This happened on May 21st after we lost to Canada 12-7. And this was in the London series. And I know he was watching because he tweeted, "Time to rebuild with proper structures." By the way, we had a good run up until your game against Canada. From how you were watching the game and the build-up, what went wrong?
I think I can't say it's that specific tournament that things went wrong. I think it's been a build-up over years, over time.
Yeah.
And if you're a keen rugby guy or a guy who really follows the sport, you could say probably we saw it coming.
Okay.
But we never actually did anything to stop it. I think it's one of those situations where you sweep things under the carpet, but then there's one day italipuka. And that's what happened. Of course, if you look at the London Sevens, like you said, things were going well. And I think we've played, the whole season, that's the best rugby we've played on that last tournament, when now we knew we were going to be relegated. Because you could see the boys passing, the ball was flowing, there was nice movement of the ball. Until that last game, I don't know clearly what happened, but I think if we had played the same way we were playing during those first 2-3 games that we played in that pool, we would have been in a good place. Because you could see the hunger, you could see the teamwork. But now in the last game, the teamwork kind of dropped a little bit. I don't know why. Probably if the players, maybe one person was looking for that moment of, I call it the Hombachi moment, the one that took us to the Olympic. Probably one player was looking for that, because there were instances where we could have passed the ball and scored, try at the corner, or just let the ball flow. And it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
And I think, like I said, it's something that has been building over the years.
Over time.
And that's why when you saw me tweeting, it's heartbreaking. It's a very sad thing that has happened to us, because that was the best in Kenya. Because Kenya Sevens is the one that gets all the exposure. We play all these continents. We play the top teams in the world. And for the young guys who are coming up, they've always dreamt of playing for Kenya Sevens. But now it has been robbed. It has been robbed of them.
So what does this mean for us in terms of not just losing that particular game and being relegated? what does that translate to now that we won't be in the sevens internationally?
It will be tough. I mean, what it means, we have to go through now the qualifying process. We have to qualify first of all through Africa. Then you go into the Challenger Qualifier Series. You win that, then now you go and play the pool games like the one Tonga did in London.
Yeah.
I think now you play the bottom 3 teams in the rugby series. And now the teams have been reduced to 12.
Yes.
And now you see that is a very tiresome, long process of getting back. But if we invest properly, if we get that exposure right, we can't just keep waiting for, I mean, 1 tournament or 2 tournaments a year, and so that we can prepare for that. I think now we have to really go back to the drawing board, go for all these satellite tournaments, the Amsterdam Sevens, the Roma Sevens, all those invitationals, the Dubai Invitational Sevens.
Yeah.
We have to send a team there.
Yeah.
And a team of young guys who now will develop them into the guys who will take us through all the way to the qualification of the series.
Almost seems like you're saying we should start on a clean slate. So if you were in charge, and I'll ask you about that, we start building a younger crew and a younger squad to prepare them to get. So basically unatuambia hatuta shine tena for a while.
No, tutashine.
Yeah.
We can start, because even the team that is there at the moment is of a very young age group.
Right.
The only thing that happened to them is that probably they never got the learnings from the senior guys.
Right.
Because most of the senior guys were out. So they never got that opportunity to learn from the senior guys. And you see, in a team, when you have a senior kind of setup, it helps with a lot of things. Number one, it helps the younger players come in comfortably, relax. They don't have that pressure of, I have to perform. And then you help them in understanding the game. You help them with the culture of the team. They understand the culture of the team. But now you see all these young guys coming in, out, and some of them have been in there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And even them, for now to be called senior guys, the likes of Oyo, who was the captain, Billy Odhiambo, who was there, that those kind of, we call them, they were the senior guys at this time. But even them, they did not go through the proper system of becoming a senior guy.
So whose failure was that?
I think it's the transition, how the team was being transitioned.
Okay.
Honestly, for me, I think it's how we've handled the transition. Because yes, we've been maintaining a couple of guys, maybe 2-3 guys who have been there. Like for me, I've been there for long. You maintain me, probably you maintained Amonde, you maintained probably the likes of Oscar Uma. But now, we always kept ignoring the link, the middle group, the link between the most senior guys and the younger guys. Every time they develop, somehow, something used to happen. Before a season, we get kicked out. Then they kick all those guys out. They bring in fresh guys who are, I'm not saying they're bad players. They're very talented. But because they just did a big run at the local circuit, or they did this, they just brought into the team and been told, go in. So suddenly, every year in the team, we are teaching passing, we are teaching basics, we are teaching tackling, we are teaching so many things. By the time you get it, it's towards the end of the season. Then those guys who we taught, at the beginning of the other season, they're not there again. Then they're being brought new players. Suddenly, every year, it's the same cycle and the same. As much as you say you're maintaining some crop of guys, it wasn't enough. We needed these middle group kind of guys who have been there in the team.
So besides the transition, what else do you mean or refer to when you tweeted, we need to rebuild the structure?
Number one, I think the culture at some point was really affected in the team. It disappeared because of the in, out, the movement that was coming in. And also, I think there was a time where players were pit against each other. The senior guys and the junior guys were pit against each other. So suddenly, you find there's a big rift. Because when guys who are in charge of the game that time come and tell the senior guys, the junior guys don't want you guys in the team because they say you are controlling them, you are doing this. Then they go ahead and tell the same junior guys. The senior guys are saying, you in the team, you don't listen, you don't do this. Suddenly there's a big rift. And you see, we didn't actually realize it. And I think until when we went for the Olympics, that's when one of the younger guys, who's I consider him very, very bold enough and very sane in mind, came to us and told us, hey, very simple, my guys, kwani kunaendaje mnaambia Chesco that sisi ndo tunakamwambia, do you mean si nyinyi ndo mna? That's when we realized, the coach at that time was pulling the team apart, thinking that
Usema coach mgani huyo?
Start mention names.
Thinking
that you are trying to you are building the team by making sure that you're building, of course you're building the junior guys, but then again, as much as you're doing that, you're splitting the team, is being
This
split.
is while you were actively there.
When I was still actively there.
So that particular
and that particular time we came to realize that what was happening. And see, when it was happening, guys discovered it, that it's happening.
Okay.
And suddenly now even everything wasn't working, because suddenly these junior guys have so much power that they don't even listen to what things are being said.
We'll get to the coach. Tatuambia tu. When a layman is watching, the performance has maybe just dipped and we've been relegated. A layman would say, we need to see heads roll. Is that an approach you would take if you were in charge?
I can't see heads
in the technical team and what have you.
Definitely, I think we really need to improve in terms of how we approach the game.
Yeah.
The game has changed, and I think we need to understand our Kenyan culture. We have players that are not fully equipped or fully skilled. Very few players have been fully skilled to handle such kind of competition. But I think if you look at the Kenyan scope, the typical Kenyan player is still struggling with his left pass. The typical Kenyan player is still struggling with his tackling. And the reason for that is that we started rugby late. Very few of our players started rugby at the age of 5 or 7. Very few. Now, probably it's now that they are coming up. But most of the guys who have been there are guys who started rugby at high school. That's late. That's too late. So by the time you even develop the skills, and you see the skills being taught in Kenya, it's very different. The skills Mwamba players will have is not the same skills Cabras players would have. It's not the same skills KCB players would have, because of the different approach. We don't have a standardization approach in how we play the game. Even on development level, you see teams like South Africa, because the development path is very clear. Australia, the development path is very clear. They know, even if a player is playing in the under-19s, the player knows this is the structure, I will find it when I go to the senior team. So that player will never struggle with structure.
Got you.
That player knows that I need to up my passing, my this, for me to be able to handle that. So the only thing that will be changing from when he's young until he plays for the national team is the intensity. That's all that he needs to change, which is how he gyms, how he runs, how he communicates. The intensity is the one that changes. But in terms of structure and skills, there's no compromise. It's starting from uko chini, and it goes all the way up. So everybody understands, even if I want to play for Springboks, even if I want to play for the Wallabies, for the All Blacks, the structure is the same. You go to club rugby, structure is the same. The approach, probably the things, the tricks might be different, but the approach is the same. And you see that cuts across. But for us, it's very different, because you get players who come and say, my club miss Fanyangi Evo.
Right. And if you're speaking as someone who can actually get the bigger picture, because you've been in the game, you understand it, and you've seen world best practice. Ukapewa kazi ya the main coach unaweza chukua?
I think to answer that question, I would say it's only fair to share the knowledge. And if I share the knowledge in a coach capacity, why not? If I share the knowledge in a consultancy capacity, I would do that. Because at the end of the day, I also want another player to have the same dream, and the dream and to achieve the dream. And that's why I have kind of transitioned a bit into coaching. At the moment, I'm working with Mwamba Rugby on the upcoming 7 series. So for me, I really want to see those guys develop. And like you said, I've been in the game for long. I mean, I've gone through so many coaches. I've gone through local coaches. I've gone through international coaches. I've played for different invitational international teams with different coaches. And I think I've gathered so much. I've gathered so much that I can share. And I think I kind of understand what needs to be done for a player to be able to achieve the goals that they set themselves. Because at the end of the day, most of our players, all you need to do is unlock here. Most of our Kenyan players, you unlock here, you're fine.
So Collins diplomatically answers he can give the advice, consultancy or whatnot, but why not even as a coach? So I want you to comment here as you're following this conversation online. Vincent Mumba says, hello guys, I'm watching from Thika, MKU. Thank you for that. And you've made a request. We'll take note of that. But I want people to talk about the issue of whether you'd want Collins Injera to coach the national sevens team, because he is already coaching. He's perhaps preparing for that responsibility on a national scale. So you tell us what you think. Tupeni kura. Tell us on the comment section of this as you follow online. So there is now a new leadership in terms of on a national scale. We have a new CS on sports. What would you tell him? He's probably listened to the part of structure and that you're willing to be coach. But what would you tell the CS to prioritize for rugby in this country?
Of course, I'll speak for rugby at the moment because that's where I'm vastly experienced. I think all that's needed to be done is, I think they should invest in proper structures. By structures, I mean the infrastructure, the fields, the gym. I know the union has a mandate to run the sport, but I think without the government's support, it should be very difficult. And as you know, at the moment, Kenya Rugby Union is really struggling with, I think, financial status. And now that we've been relegated as well, it's not going to get good unless now we find a person who has really decided to invest in it and grow with it. And I think the government, if the government does that, I think it's very key for them to be able to support, because now this will mean that even the corporates will come in. And you see, there is this thing that I think is a Kenyan culture that we are used to, that we reward people after they perform. You see, when the team goes and plays poorly, we learn at the airport, probably we're just met by our wives, our girlfriends, whoever, our Uber drivers. But then, when we win, the security dancers are there, the politicians are there. Tumeenda mpaka pale eka, breakfast, tumepewa hapo sausages, bacon, nini. You enjoy, you have the good life. But now you see, it's not about that. I think if we invest in it, because that's what it's needed. If the corporates or the government invest in it, even now is the right time. Come with this team from down. Build it. Because at the end of the day, I think if we do that, we'll be fine. Instead of just waiting, oh, wamekuja, kila mtu apewe check yake ya 100 or 200, whatever it is. You are there posing, then after that, you're left wallowing huko nyuma. They don't even know how you use that money or what happened. But I think at the moment now, like I said, proper structures, that is part of it. Invest in the sport. Get a sponsor, because going to all these satellite tournaments, we will need sponsorship.
You're now in you have been in the public relations space, a space that I'm also in. You appreciate the value of such a brand, Rugby Sevens, Kenya Rugby Sevens, on an international stage. Speak to the corporates in terms of the value that it would bring to the team and to them as well in partnership. I wouldn't say they don't want to partner. I wouldn't say it's hard to convince them. So why aren't we seeing them hop onto such opportunities, even from the local level?
I think, to be honest, like you said, I'm a PR guy. And I love honesty. I'll be very honest. I think probably why some of the corporates are kind of shying away is because of our history. Of what has been happening, of the story they've heard about Kenya Rugby Union. And you see, I would say, it's a good thing, like you say, there's now new leadership in the kind of management of the sport as well. I mean, the sport in Kenya, and also in Rugby Union as well. We have that luxury. We've gotten new leaders on board. We have our new chairman, Sasha Mtai, who I think has the best interest of the game at heart. We have new directors in place. And I think if they get the trust back of the corporates, I know corporates can invest. I mean, even now, it's not that much, because I know we are not on the global scene. But if a corporate invests, you get the exposure, you get the brand exposure. Kenya Sevens is a big brand. We can't even sit back and lie about it. I think the only thing that happened at that time is the corporate, I think, lost trust with the team. And I think that is what really hurt us. And that's why people are pulling away. Every time you go ask for something, people are pulling away. And we were not helping ourselves because of the stories that were coming out. You hear money came in, has been used, you were. So you tell me which corporate would
want to
want to invest.
Yeah, because you're not sure it will get to you.
Even if they come with their own stringent or strict structures, there was a way that the guys who were in the leadership that time just used to find a way around it. But I think at the moment, this is the best time to do it. Get in, build with the team. By the time we get to the Challenger Series, the team has exposure, is taken care of. And it's good because as players, we never ask for much.
Yeah.
We just want to know your salaries will be paid, your medical is in check, very small things that will keep a player happy. Rather than a player having committed all his time there, but there's nothing coming out of it.
Yeah. Ben Wanasakami, he says to the question whether you should be given the job to coach the national team. And he says, yes, why not? Keep that coming. I want to encourage people to interact online and on the chat section here. We're following the YouTube link, the live YouTube link. And now I want to look at the highlights of your 17-year international career. You hung your boots January 24th, I believe. It's been 4 months.
Yeah.
What informed it? Because when I hear you speak about how it's taken time to get to relegation for the Kenya Rugby Sevens, it's as if you had seen things going wrong and you're like, I've had it with this. Is it also you just saying you're not going to deal anymore with such mediocrity in terms of management?
Part of it, yes. Of course, age was catching up.
Yeah, that's what you said. I mean, you're a PR guy. So you said you listened to your body.
Yes.
And you said it's time. But when someone else hears you talk about the management of the game here,
I'll be honest with you, it's true that also informed my decision in retiring. It's not an easy decision, Mark, let me just tell you. Retirement, it's never an easy decision.
Right.
I thought one day, I always told myself, and even told my fellow players that, one day I'll just wake up and I know it's time.
Yeah.
Yes, you wake up, you know it's time, but when you go do it, you can't do it. I think it's a decision I've held it for. I retired this year. I think I held it for 3 years.
Oh.
Before the Olympics, I knew it's going to be Olympics, then I retire. I went to the Olympics, the 2020 Olympics, I didn't retire. Came back home, nikaona hapa bado.
Yeah.
I'll be doing myself injustice because I'm still feeling, I'm still strong.
Right.
Nikasema, let me do one more World Cup Sevens. Nikasema, this one, kwanza it'd be perfect. I'll go to the World Cup Sevens, it will be my 4th World Cup in a row. Cape Town, South Africa, beautiful place to retire. You'll get your parade, the stadium, nini. Perfect. I get to SA, I'm still with the plan. Played the first game, plan ikaanza kucrumble. Couldn't do it.
Yes.
SA tukamaliza, finished, came back home. I was contemplating, I was saying, okay, Collins, now is the time. Hakuna, there's nothing, there's no more sevens. World Cup isha. Sevens ni till Dubai. Just call it. Kukaa kidogo, I get a call up by the then 15th coach, Polodera. Asks me, do you want to play? Nikamwambia, hey, why not? Tena nikaona, very beautiful plan.
Yeah.
Retire where you started, because I started off with the 15s. So nikasema, let me go to France. If I don't qualify, I will retire. If I qualify, I'll still have to wait for the World Cup. That's 1 more year to wait for the World Cup. We go to France, play first game, play second. Suddenly the dream is alive. We have the finals against Namibia. Nikasema, whatever happens in this game, after this,
done.
Perfect. International media is here. I've even said I'll press conference, sit there after the game, say, oh, I'm retiring from international rugby. Oh, finish the game. Namibia beat us, I think, 30-something nil. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't say, this is it. But then now I came back to Kenya. I rested for a bit. I got an opportunity to play for a team called Monaco Impis in the Dubai Invitational. I went there. I played kidogo, came back. That's when I got the call. I had gotten a call earlier to go to Fiji. But I didn't know Fiji was going to put me in the Walk of Fame, in the street, the Walk of Fame.
Yep.
I didn't know. Me, I just knew I'm attending a tournament as a guest. So I get to Fiji. It's this big thing from the airport. Everyone is there shouting. I actually felt like, this is it. This is the life now. And I'm getting it after probably on my end days of my career.
Yeah.
But then I get to Fiji. during the week, I'm being told, by the way, before the tournament, you're going to unveil your plaque on the Walk of Fame.
Yes.
And the town you are in is called Fiji Rugby Town. It's called Sigatoka. It's a rugby town. It's where now most of their big players come from. And it's proper rugby. There's no way you'll go into that town.
I think we have a picture of that showing right now.
So I go, I get there. Everybody in the streets knows you. Everybody at the hotel. It was crazy. So when I availed my plaque, I think when I came back home, after that, that's when I decided, I think Collins, just call it. Because I think it's been too long. Now you've started being honored with such things. You can't be honored and still be there running around after the ball.
Yes.
And that's when I just jotted something down, came back home, posted.
Did you consult someone after you jotted it?
I have always been consulting.
So who did you ask first?
The first one I called my dad. I asked my dad. Of course, my wife knew I was going to do it because she also kept telling me, hey, you need to decide. If you let it go, we see if there are other opportunities that will come of it. Then, of course, I called my dad. I talked to my mom. I spoke to my bro. And I think those are the main guys, my wife, those are the main people that really knew what was going on.
Yeah.
After consulting, my dad told me, if that's what you feel and that's what you want, I mean, pia time inaenda.
Yeah.
You can't continue staying somewhere that you're not happy.
Yeah.
And you see, I'm saying happy not because I was that much frustrated. Ever in my whole career, I've never ever woken up, doubted myself going for training. Hakuna siku nilifungua blanketi hivi nikajiuliza, hey, Colin, is it a must when they training? But I started doing that. I started doing that because, number one, the environment wasn't right.
Okay.
The environment was, as much as I psych myself at home, I get to the training, moods dip. Even the guys are unhappy. It was just a lot of things that was going on. And that's when I decided, I think it's time for me to call it. Because now if I start doubting myself, I'll start becoming a negative impact, even not only to me, to my fellow teammates. And I couldn't do that.
Did anyone try to talk you out of it?
After I had announced. That's why I said, let me just
announce it. Who comes to mind having told you, hey, uko sure, bro? Anyone in the game? Any coaches?
Yeah, I think my teammates as well could not believe it. A coach, I'd say even Geoffrey Kimani was telling me, just do 2024, just do Paris.
Yeah.
Just do one, then you can now live in peace. Yeah. Just do one more Olympics. I think I'll be doing an injustice to the system because I won't be committed there. I'll just be doing it because I want to get this 2024 Paris thing. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to, if I'm out there, because for me, when I'm out there, I compete.
Yeah.
And I go for it. I compete. Ukwe younger guy, ukwe elder guy, me, I go for competition. Yeah.
So your wife must have been happy and the kids as well, 3 kids, because they'll have daddy there more. Go celebrate.
Yes, I think they're very happy. Wife, of course, was very happy.
Yeah.
Number one, because now I'll be at home. I'll be spending more time with the kids.
Yeah.
The kids were happy. Like I said, even now I'm doing school runs, things that I never used to do.
Yeah.
I take them to school in the morning. When I have time in the evening, I go and pick them. And it's something that they love doing. But my daughter actually never experienced that because she was there at the time when I was
away,
leaving at 5 a.m., coming back at 5, 6 when she's already back. So it was tough. But the 2 boys have really enjoyed it. I mean, school run every day in the morning with Daddy, they love it. And now I have more time, the family. Weekends, of course, most of my weekends were fully booked because it's either training or game. It was just rugby, or I've traveled. But now at least I get time. I can be home on a Saturday, which sometimes I find it very difficult. You wake up on a Saturday, Allah, niko home.
What do people do on Saturdays at home?
Now you start finding things to do. Yeah.
So we'll talk about what you've gotten into and the stuff that you're doing. But are there moments, maybe even when you were watching this last game where we were relegated, that you were like, ama ningekaa tu nisaidie my boy?
Definitely. I won't even lie. It was very tough. I was looking at the games, some of the games, not even the last tournament, throughout the season. I've been watching the games throughout the season. And there are places where inafika unasema, ningebaki kidogo. But then again, that was expected.
Right.
After retirement, I think that was because you keep hanging on to that thing that you've let go. You keep thinking about it. You're always there thinking, ai, ningebaki, hii kitu ingefanyika kweli hivi. Sidhani, because ningekuwa nimekuwa mkali, ama ningekuwa nimesema hivi. And those moments are there. And sometimes it gets very frustrating when it happens. Because you keep knowing, because you know that these players can do actually better. But they're not doing what they needed to do. And you know, probably it's because they didn't have any senior guys in the squad. Because you see some of the things that were happening, you know, if somebody, 2 or 3 senior guys were there, that wouldn't have happened like that. It would have been different. But then again, at the end of the day, you have to move on. The team has to
But 4 months on,
the game is bigger than any individual.
But 4 months on, you're like, it still made the right decision.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.